Okay, I don't know how to make this video. It felt so different in Tokyo than it did Kinosaki and Kyoto. There, I felt like I was experiencing something novel and new, and I was aware that I was traveling. Here, I felt like I was at home, but a different, darker version of it. This trip brought up a lot of mixed feelings and emotions for me. I really don't know how to convey my feelings through just the footage I filmed, so I'm kind of word vomiting. And I really wanted to honor my thoughts by unboxing every crevice of these inner feelings. I feel like nowadays, every time I travel with anyone, it's always about how chic can we top this off, or how Instagrammable is it. It kind of took away from like the genuine in the moment content and turned this sort of travel style into a manufactured lifestyle. It's one of those things that we and myself are all intellectually aware of. But how do we emotionally filter that out? I myself try to avoid that noise by living authentically and maybe with my own creative twist. But yet, I found myself jarred going to 7-Eleven every morning. So I haven't like vlogged much. It's been a lot of sightseeing. One thing I can vlog that is like an actionable thing we do is that we get coffee at 7-Eleven every morning. And this is our little strip that we walk down. We're walking to get our final cup of coffee together. As if I was like losing some opportunity to document something really special. But I realized that was special because it was our ritual and it was something we did every single day. I've heard about Japan's desolate nature in the past, and one I didn't feel prior to Tokyo. Then here I was, suddenly burdened by the repression followed by nostalgia? Something felt off of me. Maybe it was the dreary weather that contrasted the hyperstimulation. I'm really regretting some of the things I didn't buy in Kinosaki now. Or the extraordinarily clean city contrasted by these hidden seedy locations. I just couldn't help but to feel like this lingering can of worms waiting to be opened. The whole trip up to this moment had kind of just been flowing past us. We felt like we couldn't really get to explore the city as much as we wanted to. We're documenting our Corona experience. It was very good. And
Post-blackout?
Post-Corona blackout.
Aftermath. Greece.
Because jet lag was creeping up on us, or that it was just so cold. Okay, we're entering the rain. Bye. And we weren't prepared for it. But the weight of Tokyo really didn't resonate on me until we went to Akihabara. It's a hyper-stimulating neighborhood filled with anime and manga, and I'm really emphasizing this part of our trip because it sank in the deepest for me. This was a place that Alex wanted to revisit. We're gonna go to the anime part of town. Akihabara, and we were all super excited and inspired to go. I mean, the photos are beautiful. So we got ready that night, and maybe even poetically, Alex made a mistake with her makeup. And we're just like, you know, feeling a little unhinged. A reflection. I mean, it reminded me of this episode of Love, Death, Robots. And this episode in particular actually kind of made me feel the same way that Tokyo made me feel. But we all onboarded this unhinged makeup, and at this point, it was a genuine expression of how I felt. We got on the train and arrived down a really beautiful rainy strip, which reminded me a lot of Vegas due to like the screaming billboards and stimulating games all around us, both with like this pervasive boundary scarred with the loss of innocence. But one thing really differed. The crowds were quiet and to themselves. It was painfully silent for such a loud atmosphere, as if I had exploded into a virtual reality game for an invasive yet lonely experience. There was one store that Alex really wanted to revisit in particular, Don Quixote, a multi-catch-all store with a different theme on each floor. And let me tell you, walking into this store, you're suddenly enveloped with these jarring obscurities of like chaos and messiness. And each floor had a different theme, so it went from like food to costumes And then there was a maid cafe, which, by the way, shed so much light on how women are portrayed in this country, which really made me question, is this fetishized or perversive or empowering? Anyways, the last 2 floors were arcades with these single players just deep in the zone. A far contrast to America's arcades that are filled with camaraderie and teamwork. So I wanted to play some DDR, and I broke my $10 equivalent of a yen, which turned into a large handful of tokens, but the machine doesn't take tokens. And the only machine that did take these tokens were slot machines. So I surrendered to like the mind-numbing bet 3 button for all of like 10 minutes before boredom was hit and there was nothing to show for it. And I went to flag someone down to exchange it back for yen. And like most of my interactions in Japan, it ended with an employee frantically pointing to a sign that I had, of course, missed. Gambling for money in Japan is illegal. And suddenly, that depression rushed over me again. Like, these guys were playing slots for nothing. It was so bewildering to me. And in that moment, it just felt like the walls were closing in on me. I felt claustrophobic, and I just desperately wanted to escape Don Quixote. As we left the store, it was about 11 p.m., and I was definitely still in that virtual reality daze. So we journeyed on home in the freezing cold, and I was just left feeling more grim than the others. I really want to iterate here that there's no judgment passed. In fact, I really appreciate that there's a safe space for people to indulge their passions with this sort of protected secrecy. I guess I just didn't know what I was looking for in order to feel properly. I mean, doesn't that translate to every part of life when we're feeling a little lost? But I really want to dig deeper into this unfamiliar nostalgia. It felt as when I was going up Don Quixote, I was peeling back layers of myself, as if I was diving deeper into my own psyche, only to find out that ultimately we tend to keep ourselves busy by an addiction to distraction. Have I been finding ways to escape my whole life? I mean, my monthly horoscope likes to point that out, but I never really could resonate. Alex and I had one extra day to ourselves as Francis went home early.
The spicy ramen.
Oh, you were getting emotional.
The spicy ramen.
So we figured what better way to celebrate our blackouts than to go to an Instagram trap. Isn't this a full circle at this point now? The need to feel validated through these beautiful visuals. And I'm finally here. I was really grateful to have Francis and Alex around as all of our conversations went deep, real fast. We just talked so much and we really helped each other unbox our notions and always supported each other's worries. We started to call these moments blackouts, as if every touch point from eating to conversing to people watching had resulted in us being completely unaware of time and surroundings. Is this what being extremely present feels like? Or is this a byproduct of us escaping together? Not sure if we have that figured out this time, or this trip. But what I do know is I want to enjoy the process of learning in the abyss